All right, welcome back to WMAC Now with your host Chuck Stevenson. So I wanted to preview the three ladies bouts for UFC Fight Night Orlando coming up this Saturday. And we actually have three good bouts, and honestly, this whole fight card's pretty darn good. Which, considering they're getting out of the stupid Apex and actually going out in front of a live audience, it makes sense because you actually want to sell some tickets. But I like these three matchups. Two of them have ranking implications. One of them features, the third features an undefeated upcoming fighter with a ton of potential and who put on, a fight of the year contender in a great bout in her UFC debut. So all three of these bouts offer something and have, some significance to them. So really looking forward to them. Let's go ahead and get into them. First bout is going to be the opening bout on the card, which is a strawweight bout between Yasmin Jauregui and Estela Nunes. And this is about, Nunes was supposed to be Jauregui's debut fight in the UFC, and she had to withdraw, I believe, due to injury. And Jauregui ended up facing that Yasmin Lucindo instead, which ended up being an awesome fight. This one's going to be a pretty good striking battle in itself. For different reasons. But let's go ahead and take a look at the stats on this one. Jauregui, of course, undefeated at 9-0. Made her UFC debut just 3 months ago. Nunes coming in at 6-3. Hasn't had any luck in the UFC yet. She's 0-2 so far, getting submitted by Ariana Canalosi, and then losing the decision to Sam Hughes most recently 5 months ago. Jauregui's the younger fighter at 23-30. Nunes slightly taller, 5 feet 4 inches, 163 centimeters to 5'3", 160 centimeters for Jauregui. According to Topology, Nunes has a reach advantage as well, 66 inches, 168 centimeters to 64 inches, 163 centimeters for Yasmin Jauregui. This should be a good one. We've got boxing versus, Brazilian-style Muay Thai. Yasmin bringing that Mexican boxing heritage with her to the UFC, taking on the Muay Thai stylist Nunes. Do not blink during the first round of this bout. I think this bout is going to be absolutely amazing for the first round. After that, Nunes is probably going to slow down significantly. She seems to gas out after the first round, or at least has done so far in the UFC. But this is going to be good. Nunes has really crisp striking, and but she has to sit down really on her punches when she does it. Whereas Jauregui, she's more of a footwork stylist, uses a lot more footwork in her striking, and goes all over with her boxing. If it goes to the ground, I would see Jauregui taking it to the ground before I would see Nunes taking it to the ground. Could easily see Jauregui taking her down. She trains out of Entrum Gym, and the fighters that are trained out of there are no slouch on the ground. I mean, that's the gym that produced Brandon Moreno. So her ground game is underutilized, but she definitely has it. But my take on this one is going to be Yasmin Jauregui. Like I said, I think it's going to be very exciting in that first round, and then afterwards, Nunes is going to start slowing down, and Jauregui will just absolutely take over from there. So I'm going with Yasmin Jauregui to win this bout. Next, we have a flyweight bout between two top 15 fighters. Tracy Cortez taking on Amanda Ribas. I believe Tracy Cortez is currently ranked number 13 at flyweight. Ribas is ranked number 15 for some reason. I mean, her only win at flyweight was in 2020 against Paige Van Zandt, who's not even in the UFC anymore. But that's the way it is. This should be a fun one. Aesthetically, a lot of people are going to enjoy this, at least for the aesthetics, if you get my meaning. But it should be a fun one in the cage as well. Let's take a look at the stats first. Cortez coming in at 10-1. She's undefeated in the UFC as well. Ribas coming in at 11-3. She's coming in most recently, had a split decision loss against Katlyn Chookagian 5 months ago. Before that, had a win over Verna Jandiroba at strawweight. That was a year ago. Ribas slightly older, 29-28 for Cortez. Cortez has the height advantage, 5 feet 5 inches, 165 centimeters to 5 feet 3 inches, 160 centimeters for Ribas. Looks like Ribas has, well, I mean, the reach is almost negligible, but Ribas has it 66 inches, 168 centimeters to 65.5 inches, 166 centimeters. Yeah, this should be a really fun fight, particularly while it stays on the feet. Cortez is one of those fighters. She knows what she wants to do, and as long as she gets to do that, she's fine, and that's wrestling. But she's got to get it to the mat first, which means she has to start the fight on her feet. And when you watch Cortez in her fights, she does not look comfortable on the feet. I mean, her striking is passable, but you can tell that she doesn't really want to be there. She doesn't enjoy being on her feet. She wants to be on the ground. Whereas Ribas is kind of like the opposite. Her striking is kind of all over the place, and she will just, run straight into her opponents, throwing strikes. She's wild and fun with it. Her defense has lacked at times, and it has seriously cost her. But she makes it work for her a lot of the time. I mean, her only real knockout loss in the UFC, well, yeah, she got TKO'd against Marina Rodriguez, but she did all right against, Chookagian. A lot of people thought she won. So on the feet, it's going to be pretty interesting to watch. On the ground, I think this really depends on who can get it there. Ribas has the stereotypical WMMA head and arm throw, but man, does she make it work for her. She really excels at making that work for her. And it showed in the Chookagian fight, where she just basically came forward on Chookagian and immediately got her to the ground, which she should not have been able to do against Chookagian, but she did it. Cortez, on the other hand, loves to wrestle. Very traditional, American wrestling style. Changes levels for takedowns. Shoots the penetration step, single leg, double leg, stuff like that. And is just really top heavy and controlling on the ground. Ground and pound's okay. Does leave herself open to submission attempts, like when she beat Erin Blanchfield. She was defending submissions for a good bit of the fight, and a lot of people feel that Blanchfield actually deserved a nod on that one, but Cortez got it. So should be good. The win against Van Zandt aside, and the close loss against Chookagian aside, I'm not sure Ribas is really cut out for flyweight. Cortez is pretty thick for flyweight. She's got a solid build for it. I mean, she's built solid all around. I think this is just going to be a matter of time before Cortez can get her takedowns, get it to the ground, and then just work away and whittle away from top position against Ribas. So I'm going with Tracy Cortez to take this one. So then finally, we have all three of these are on the prelims. But the final bout for ladies on this card is going to be back down at strawweight. Angela Overkill Hill taking on Emily Gordina Ducote. This is the test for Ducote. I'm not sure let me see what the rankings are right here, because I think they're both ranked right now, or at least Hill is. Pull up the rankings real quick. Ducote's at 13, Hill is at 12, and honestly, this is going to be the fight to decide if Ducote is going to wind up in the top 10 or not. I mean, even with Hill at number 12, this is the fight that's going to decide how good Ducote is going to do in the UFC strawweight division. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the stats before we get any deeper into this. Hill coming in at 14-12, Ducote coming in at 12-6. Hill coming in off of a win over Lupita Godinez 3 months ago. Preceded that with 3 straight losses to Tisha Torres, Amanda Lemos, and then Verna Jandiroba successively. Ducote just coming in off of her UFC debut 4 months ago, defeating Jessica Penne. Before that, had 3 straight wins, including winning the Invicta title and then defending it successfully. Hasn't lost in 3 years. Let's see. Ducote's the younger fighter, 28-37 for Hill, so a nice 9-year difference there. Hill slightly taller at 5 feet 3 inches 160 centimeters to 5 feet 2 inches 157 centimeters for Ducote. And Hill has the reach as well, 64.5 inches 164 centimeters to 63 inches 160 centimeters for Ducote. I like this fight. I really like this fight because, Angela Hill, she's always fun to watch, always entertaining. She's not boring. I mean, she doesn't get the finishes, but that doesn't mean she isn't entertaining. So that's fun to look forward to. And, Ducote, ever since moving down to strawweight, aside from the loss to Kanako Murata, she's looked better and better each and every fight. Now, she looked a little hesitant against Jessica Penne, but, you could easily chalk that up to octagon jitters. I mean, sure, she's been under the bright lights in Bellator, but Bellator and the UFC, they're miles apart still. So, plus she was in there against a pretty solid veteran. So, we'll see, because here she is against another solid veteran, and honestly, and some people are going to take this the wrong way, but don't. Ducote's going in there against, the ultimate strawweight gatekeeper in Angela Hill. And I don't use the term gatekeeper negatively on this channel. I use it as a sign of, it's a title that's earned. Because you are the fighter that tests up and coming fighters. And that's what Hill has basically been for a good several years now. If you can beat Angela Hill, you'll be competitive with the top 10 at strawweight. If you can't, then you got to go back and rework some things, and you might not ever make it into the top 10 at strawweight in the UFC. So that's what I mean when I say that Angela Hill's a gatekeeper. And this is going to be the solid test that Emily Ducote needs in her UFC career. It's going to be your first test, and this is going to be a big one. I see this fight largely playing out on the feet. I give the edge in power to Ducote. Speed, I'll give it to Hill, at least for the first half of the fight. Hill's problem is, she's very busy with her footwork and her hands. It basically has that Alliance style, Dom Cruz style that every fighter at Alliance seems to fall into. But with Hill, she kind of gets tired. She wastes a lot of energy, basically. She gets tired and from doing that. And then she starts slowing down. And whereas Ducote is pretty steady, like throughout a fight. And I think that's what's going to carry her through, is just being rock steady, whereas Hill is likely to tire out more easily. So, and I see this largely being on the feet. On the ground, I would actually give the edge to Ducote, mostly her jiu-jitsu, whereas Hill has grown a lot on the ground, but every once in a while shows those hiccups and still vulnerable to submissions. So I'm going to go with Ducote here. I think this is going to be a close fight. And like I said, it's going to be that test that Ducote needs, and I think she'll pass the Angela Hill test. Anyway, those are my thoughts. UFC Fight Night. What are they calling it now? UFC Fight Night Thompson versus Holland, or UFC Orlando, whatever they're calling it. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on these three fights. Who are you picking? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like the vid, please give it a like, and why don't you go ahead and subscribe to WMMA Now, the best, most complete women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.